If you needed more evidence that a flare gun is a really bad idea for self-defense, you've got a video now. But what's the aftermath? Can this be considered a use of deadly force by a prosecutor because she was ultimately arrested and charged as a result of this incident? What's really one of the biggest takeaways about how this all directly applies to you, even if you don't own or plan to carry a flare gun? Guys, let's get into it. So how bad are flare guns in self-defense? Let's put it this way. In a kerfuffle between two retired senior citizens living in I believe, some sort of senior citizen retirement village, one shot the other one from about 10 feet away in the face. These are people in their 70s. The guy who got shot in his face, I think he was 76, 77, he didn't even fall down. That's how ineffective these things are at self-defense.
Idiot! What is wrong with you?
So do you want to see the aftermath of what it's like to be shot in the face with a flare gun? Here you go. It's a mark on the face. There's some blood. We're going to be getting to the use of deadly force arguments here in just in a moment that an aggressive prosecutor may and probably will make sometimes, all right? Maybe all the time even if you live in the wrong spot. How strong is the flare gun? You saw the damage. You know it's not much. It does about, they're all gonna be different brands, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be doing about 95 foot-pounds of force. An untrained adult who's throwing a punch is gonna be doing anywhere from 70 to about 110. Professional MMA, professional boxers, that can be way higher. But this is basically on par, maybe a little weaker, maybe a little stronger than being punched in the face. Now, to be fair, most people who are throwing punches to other people's faces, their hands don't consist of magnesium and strontium nitrate. It's not on fire, burning at close to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit by the time it gets going. I concede there are differences. Most of the time it's not moving at 250 to about 350 feet per second. That's about the speed of a Major League Baseball pitch. Granted, all that's different, but here again is what it did to a mid-70s-year-old man's face who's retired. So that's the argument for the fact that, look, this is not a deadly use of force. And that's going to be important if you're considering using a flare gun. Maybe you're in an anti-gun location, maybe you're not comfortable with firearms, maybe there's any number of reasons you're, for some inconceivable reason, thinking about using a flare gun. But look what happened in that video. She shot him in the face from 10 feet away. He went up and threw her to the ground. Now imagine if that's someone who is not 70 plus years old. Imagine if that is a young military-aged male. Those tend to be the people doing most of the street crimes, doing most of the robberies, doing most of the home invasions. Doesn't tend to be guys in their 70s who are retired, living in senior apartment complexes. Just as an ex-prosecutor, just take my word for it, guys. Not the typical face of crime. So imagine what a military-age male can be doing to someone after they just shot a flare gun at their face. Do you think that's going to make them happier, sadder, more likely to hurt you? I can tell you as well that statistically, if you choose to resist in a robbery situation, someone's trying to get something, you're trying to resist. If you choose to resist, you are more likely to be injured as a woman or man compared to if you do not resist. And both of those options are statistically worse than if you resist with a firearm. That is the single best likelihood of reducing your chances of being seriously injured by your attacker if you resist with a firearm. It's about a 350% chance better actually for women. But that's neither here or there. Anti-gunners don't want to hear statistics. They don't want to follow the science. I get it. We get it here, right? Like you and me, we got it. Okay. All right. Here's how this can break down in court, in case you're curious. Prosecutor can still argue that this is going to be a use of deadly force, meaning even if you took like a shot at them and missed, or if you just nicked them or something like that, you could be facing the same similar types of major felony charges, often decades in prison, as if you did use a firearm. So you're not necessarily going to be getting that much of a discount. Okay, so how could this be considered a use of deadly force? After all, this guy just got shot in the face and he's totally fine. Here's why. In every single state that I have seen, when they classify what is a deadly use of force, it always comes down to something that looks like this. A use of deadly force is The force that could be reasonable to create death, okay, didn't really create death here, or great bodily harm, or major bodily harm. They word it in different ways in different places, but it's something like that. If you go to your state, I'm in Wisconsin, we've got great bodily harm, GBH. If you go to Wisconsin or your state, you will see that the definition of great bodily harm looks something like this, that it creates a protracted loss of the use or function of a limb or organ. Sometimes it talks about breaking bones and doing stuff like that. Okay, you shoot someone in the face, hit their eye with a 1,000 degree Fahrenheit fastball of magnesium and strontium nitrate, that could take out an eye. And you probably should have known that, and that was going to be reasonably foreseeable that if you shot someone in the face, they might lose an eye, which last I checked is an organ. And that's how you get to the fact that this is a reasonable use of deadly force. When are we privileged to use deadly force in self-defense? When we're in reasonable fear of imminent or immediate, depending on where you are, threat of death or great bodily harm. Reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm, depending on where you are. As always, check your local listings. And these two people, they've apparently been beefing for some time now. If you go into the news story. And by the way, she got arrested, and I've got no doubt in my mind that she will be criminally charged with felonies as a result of this. I don't think she's going to go to prison, but I do think that she's going to get some sort of criminal record out of this. And sorry for the chuckle, but it's pretty crazy, right? I mean, this whole situation is a little bit nuts. But that's the next point. My office handles between 10 to 20 or so self-defense firearm cases at any point in time. You know what the most likely use of firearm in self-defense, the most likely reason why people are pulling out a firearm in self-defense? Road rage. Someone pulls a gun on them, you pull a gun back. Something like that. They arise from stupid situations like this. And I say stupid because it's absolutely avoidable. How is it avoidable for this woman? Well, I don't know. If she's claiming that she's in reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm, if she's saying that this guy has been harassing her and all this other kind of stuff, which I hear that that is what she has been saying, then why did she come out from her house when he was walking his dog on the sidewalk? If she was already on the front yard, why is she walking around with a flare gun? Seems weird. And I'm not normally the person to say that about why was someone concealed carrying a firearm, but I've never heard of someone concealed carrying a flare gun. And maybe this is the reason why. It's completely ineffective, and it literally provoked a physical violent response from the victim here. Not only that, but it also put her behind bars for at least the night. So what are some key takeaways from this? Number one, don't use a flare gun in self-defense and expect it to work. Number two, if you're going to physically resist someone, don't unless you're a trained martial artist, you know what you're doing, and you don't have your firearm with you. And better yet, have a firearm with you. Next, number three, know the law and when you can use force, which from the video that I've seen, it wasn't here. But if you're going to use force effectively and only to defend yourself. Only ever to defend yourself. If you can avoid an encounter like this, don't let something stupid escalate. Because even if she was the initial victim, she's not the victim now. That's for sure, at least not as far as the law is concerned. I've got no idea what the backstory is. Maybe she's an angel and he's a demon. Maybe she's a demon, he's an angel. I don't know. But where did that get her? Nowhere good, right? And that's kind of the bottom line. I appreciate you sticking around to the end for this strange one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment field below. Don't forget to hit that like and share button. We're going to close out with our ever popular quote of the day. This one comes from Noah Webster, who said, quote, "Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every country in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed." End quote. And amen to that, right? I appreciate you sticking around. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.